Thank you for being on time, and thank you for being here on time and on such a day, which is relatively, how to put it, significant. I wouldn't say ominous, but definitely significant for Greece and perhaps also for the study of populism and democracy. I would like to welcome you all. Thank you for being here, and I would like to introduce a panel which is composed uniquely by students from the School of Political Sciences, from the postgraduate department of the school and the political analysis orientation. The students have been working during the previous academic year, or this academic year actually, in the fall semester on issues of populism within the Greek political parties, and we'll hear from 4 of them who will speak about specific cases of populism within 2 Greek political parties and an analysis of populism in a comparative view from the Southeast Asia. I would like to firstly give the floor to Lazaros Karavasilis. He'll present us the national populism of New Democracy during the May 2012 elections. I would like to give you the floor and thank you for your speech.
Thank you, Mr. Papageorgiou, for being kind and for your kind words. With my turn to welcome you, good morning to everyone, first of all. The subject that we'll be talking to you about is about national populism in New Democracy, and especially the case of May 6th elections in 2012, which we all know that they were crucial for the political and the party system. During the period before the critical elections of May 6th, 2012, New Democracy, the prominent conservative party in Greece, developed a particular discourse based on 2 pillars: the reference to the people, which is linked to the notion of the nation, and the enemy of the people, meaning the forces that act against the people and unavoidably the nation. The inclusion of the aforementioned subjects in New Democracy's political speech functions as the basic elements that consist the national populist discourse. The examination of the party's discourse has led to the assumption that national populism manages to describe the discourse sufficiently. The first step to prove that is the construction of the people. Through Antonis Samaras' speeches, the leader of the party, we can observe that the national popular subject is interpreted as the people of the nation and not the people as the working class or otherwise. This hypothesis is corroborated by the description of the people, the idolization of the people combined with the characterization of the people as a force of deliverance, and the existence of general emotions of resentment within the people can contribute to the national populist subject. Furthermore, what separates the notion of the people from other populist interpretations is the linkage with the nation. Samaras' references to the forthcoming elections, in which New Democracy will prevail with the help of the Greek people, along with the characterization of the people as family men and women, contribute to our understanding of the national populist notion of the people. To be more accurate, Samaras' address to the family men of Greece is an attempt to appeal to the common people in order to give an inner meaning to the national populist subject. The combination of other factors can aid to our understanding of the formation subject, with one of them being the importance of the emotional factor. In addition, the idolization of the people through their praising by the party leader complies with the national populist element of the charismatic leader or demagogue who manages to embody the positive emotions of the people and promises the implementation of the people's expectations. With that in mind, Samaras' campaign slogan, "Greece is going to make it," becomes a symbolic depiction of positive emotions that the people have. Another important factor that can help with the understanding of the national populist subject is the invocation of the people's historical memory. Samaras' references about the Nazis, mostly concerning the rise of the Nazi Party Golden Dawn and the German occupation in Greece, serve as to establish the idea that the people belong to a nation, thus succeeding in the formation of a national popular coiling which is translated as a national unity. The latter is based on the reminiscence of the Greek history and the common memory of the occupation, which functions as a stimulus to present the resistance spirit of the Greek people against any threat that poses a danger to the nation and its people. This brings us to the other basic pillar of national populist discourse, the construction of the enemy, which is both internal and external regarding the nation. In addition to that, the crucial role of the enemy of the people contributes to a better definition of what a people is in the national populist context. The external enemy of the nation is described rather specifically in Samaras' speech, who stresses the existence of extra-institutional centers, the characterization of illegal immigrants as an unarmed invasion, and projects the necessity to reclaim our cities from immigrants who seem to have occupied Greek cities. The point of these references is to establish the notion that the illegal immigrants, as unwanted foreigners, are trying to infiltrate into the nation in order to alter the national identity. Consequently, the accusation of illegal immigration and its conception as an invasion serves the purpose of reinforcing the national character of the people in the name of the national identity's preservation. This argument can also be proved by Samaras' urge to reclaim our cities and our neighborhoods, supposedly from the illegal immigrants that have occupied them. While this kind of discourse can be described as racist and xenophobic, it is in accordance with the national populist conception of immigration and or illegal immigration as a threat to the nation, a notion that can be met in Jean-Marie Le Pen's discourse, which has also, which has also been characterized as national populist. The attempt to establish immigration as an imminent threat also succeeds in exploiting emotions of fear and resentment that exist within the people due to the political and social changes that Greece has undergone. In the same context, the role of the internal enemy is presented as a force that serves the purpose of immigration, thus undermining the national identity and unity. For that reason, New Democracy's discourse classifies PASOK, the major socialist party in Greece, and the left, mainly the Communist Party in Greece and Syriza, as those political forces that act in favor of the immigrants and in fact are welcoming them in Greece. PASOK specifically is described as a corrupt elite system that not only is responsible for the economic crisis, but also for laying the ground for the illegal immigrants to be accepted in the country. This argument is supported by Samaras' accusation that the Hypatia incidents were orchestrated by PASOK and left activists. The Hypatia incidents regarded a few immigrants that went on a hunger strike in a public space in order to be legitimately accepted by the government of PASOK in 2012. Thus confirming the notion of the internal enemy as the forces within the nation that collaborate with external threats that want to undermine the people of the nation and the national unity. To put it differently, the internal enemy is the indigenous forces, political or otherwise, that pursue the diminishing of the nation and its cultural characteristics, namely the national identity. According to the national populist context, these forces form an alliance with other forces outside of the nation, immigration in this particular case, in order to achieve the aforementioned common purpose between external and internal forces. Now, in conclusion, we have to answer the question of what national populism is and how it differs from other definitions of populism. Through New Democracy's discourse, we came to the assumption that the core element of the national populist discourse is the nation. In particular, both the people and the enemy of the people are constructed on that element as we have presented. National populism perceives people only in the form of the nation, and with its characteristics, meaning its national identity, its cultural traditions, and other elements that contribute to the national cohesion. On the other hand, the enemies we have presented is also constructed on the basis of the nation. The enemy of the people who belongs to a nation is therefore an enemy of the nation, and for that reason, immigration is conceived as a force that can deconstruct the national identity and endanger the national unity. Those who help immigration achieve this goal are also enemies of the nation, according to national populism, because the latter perceives the people in the form of the nation while excluding any other political, social, or economic force that acts against the national popular subject. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, and thank you for being punctual in your presentation. You have developed an interesting approach of how national populism can be used for electoral purposes, and how the other of any form can be used as a target and as a main objective of the concentration of national populist discourse. We shall now go into the second speaker of this panel. Spyridon Landritsis is also a postgraduate student in the school, and he's going to talk about the particular case of populism within the Greek Orthodox rally, Laos. You have the floor for 12 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Papageorgiou. First of all, I'm really happy to be here, and for this reason, I would like to thank Professor Giannis for this opportunity to present one of my works. As you see in screen, my title of my paper is Populism in Greece, the case of popular Orthodox rally in Greek Laos, Laos Orthodox Nagermos. In this paper, we purport to explore some of the specific characteristics of the political discourse enunciated by Giannis before the European elections, which took place on the 25th of May 2014. Starting with a brief account of the theoretical approaches of Ernesto Laclau, Cas Mudde, and others, we'll examine whether it constitutes a populist discourse, focusing especially on its extremist beliefs against immigrants. Finally, we will attempt to discuss the developments that eventually led to its marginalization. At the dawn of the first decade of 2000, we had the establishment of popular Orthodox rally, Laos Orthodox Nagermos. Actually, Laos and its leader, Giorgos Karatzaferis, made a significant effort to unite the forces of the Greek radical right. His arguably populist political discourse was articulated by continuously establishing enemies and culprits who were blamed for the current political and economical corruption. Nevertheless, the fact that the popular Orthodox rally participated in a coalition government with the pan-Hellenic socialist movement, PASOK, a New Democracy, Nea Demokratia, in 2011, and the accusations that Giorgos Karatzaferis received 1.6 million euros from the purchase of 4 Super Pumas helicopters, brought about the rapid downfall both for the party as well as its leader. One aspect that's to be discussed is what it constitutes a populist discourse. Although this concept has been studied and debated by many researchers and academics, its content still remains particularly vague. Regarding the populist phenomenon, Ernesto Laclau's and Margaret Canovan's work provide us with fertile soil to comprehend this difficult concept better. According to Laclau, the central point in populism is the people. Namely, populism stems from the struggle between popular democratic elements against the ideology of power bloc. In the same context, Canovan presents populism as the revolt of the people against both the established structure of power and the dominant ideas and values of the society. Along this line, Cas Mudde defines the populist phenomenon as an ideology that distinguishes society into homogeneous and antagonistic groups, the pure people versus the corrupt elite. Also, he remarks on that politics should be dependent on the general will of the people. In the case of populist radical right parties, apart from the elite in the top, there are also elements which are considered as enemies, such as globalization and liberal democracy. Immigrants, ethnic, religious, or sexual minorities should be numbered among the foes. Also, nationalism, xenophobia, and chauvinist commands feature prominently in this family of parties. Consequently, it is evident that not only corrupt elite, but also other political or ethnic minorities constitute an adversary. The first participation of the popular Orthodox rally was in the regional election of 2002, where it gained the unexpected percentages of 13.6. During this time, the Greek society was facing a new wave of nationalism and xenophobia. This was caused by the issue of identity cards that would no longer include information on religious beliefs. Thus, Laos managed to attract a lot of attention. In the next years, electoral rates of Laos ranged from 2% to 7%. Nevertheless, after the dawn of the financial crisis, Giorgos Karatzaferis was the first politician who proposed a technocrat, namely Lukas Papadimos, for the office of Prime Minister. Giorgos Karatzaferis lost his anti-systemic image and disappointed his voters, who saw him to be part of a collapsing political system. As a result, his electoral rate shrank first to 2.9% in the parliamentary election of May 2012, and lower still in June 2012 to 1.58%. In the recent European parliamentary election which followed to 2014 and 2015, Laos received 2.69% and 1.3% of the votes respectively. In trying to clarify whether or not the discourse of the popular Orthodox rally is populist, we shall utilize the necessary criteria which were formulated earlier as to what constitutes a populist with ethno-national characteristics. Proceeding in these lines of inquiry, we note that Giorgos Karatzaferis indicated his enemies, who were no other than corrupt elites and oligarchs. In Karatzaferis' words, the first enemy is oligarchs, that they support the corrupt system just for their own benefits. The first who should be held accountable in the consciousness of the people are the oligarchs. Then Karatzaferis accused Samaras and Venizelos, the leaders of New Democracy and PASOK respectively, of being responsible for the current political and financial corruption. In Karatzaferis' words, the hardship brought on by Samaras and Venizelos' government should be finished. People must punish those who subdue our country. We are a proud country, we are a proud nation. Also, noteworthy is the fact that throughout the pre-election discourse, he made a significant effort to disclaim the label ultra-conservative, taking clear stance against the beliefs of Golden Dawn, in Greek Χρυσή Αυγή. In Karatzaferis' words, I was never on the same boat as Golden Dawn. The whole political system is responsible for the fact that we let a party of 0.7% of the votes be the regulator of the Greek political system. Golden Dawn have Nazi standards and use continuously violence instead of argument. I don't believe that the country benefits from Nazi. In a second level, processing analysis of Karatzaferis' discourse, we should take into account discourses and movements that include predominantly references to nationalistic, xenophobic, and racist comments. Throughout the pre-election discourse, the fury and hostility against the foreigners and immigrants were clearly reflected. In Karatzaferis' words, we cannot have immigrants here. We had eliminated diseases, but foreigners brought it back. Today, Greece is amidst vice. On the one hand, Greece belongs to Merkel, and on the other belongs to immigrants. It is clearly apparent that these words are characterized by ethno-nationalist and xenophobic discourse, where foreigners are stigmatized as unacceptable. To sum up, the identity of the popular Orthodox rally seems to be reflected in the words of Paul Taggart. So, Laos is a party which ideologically belongs to the right wing, and its organization is characterized by strong central structures and charismatic leadership. Also, it is full of ethno-national elements, and it is certainly obvious that Laos has a hostile attitude against immigrants and foreigners. Although Laos regarded as an anti-systemic party, its participation in the coalition government with PASOK and New Democracy in November 2011 was a misguided choice which undeniably raised the party's identity as anti-systemic. Consequently, Karatzaferis' voters reacted with bitter disappointment, and later some of them jumped in the area of Golden Dawn. The worst was yet to come. Adonis Georgiadis and Makis Voridis, who were two of the most dominant party cadres, defected to New Democracy. These are the two basic reasons for the electoral shrinking of the party. Last but not least, the accusations against Karatzaferis for owning two offshore companies that were not included in his wealth declaration form, as well as money laundering, worsened even more the climate against him and its party. This was proved in the most conspicuous way in the parliamentary election of January 2015. Thank you very much.
Thank you also. Thank you for presenting the case of an anti-systemic populist party who tried to become both populist and systemic and failed. We'll proceed now with an analysis. We'll move to another part of the globe, but globalization means that, what's the Chinese verb? A bee that flies in China creates waves in Greece. And we'll check now how the bees that fly, or wasps, whatever, that fly in Thailand have also impact on Europe. We'll deal with how populism works in Southeast Asia with a case study of Thailand and former Prime Minister Thaksin, with two of our postgraduate students, Grigoris Markou and Phanuwat Lasote. How are you going to do it? You'll switch, you'll start. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Today we will talk about populism in Asia, the case of Thaksin in Thailand. In recent years, Thailand has been facing a serious political and social crisis, which resulted in 2014 in a coup d'etat, the second military coup within 8 years. This extremely difficult situation has been predominantly provoked by economic problems, political conflict, as well as the rise of Thaksin Shinawatra within Thai politics. In this paper, we explore some of the particular characteristics of the political discourse articulated by Thaksin Shinawatra before the elections and coup d'etat of 2006. Thaksin Shinawatra is a Thai business tycoon and politician who founded the Thai Party in 1998. He became prime minister in 2001. Taking into account the theoretical insights of Ernesto Laclau and others, we argue that it constitutes a populist discourse which has developed over time in response to social demands and has deeply influenced Thai politics. Our main hypothesis is that although Thaksin's populism caused severe political instability, at the same time it contributed to the participation and mobilization of broad masses in the political scene. It brought about new ideas of democracy and the social movement Red Shirts, which demands the removal of monarchical and military intervention in politics. Before we move on to the empirical part of our paper, let us briefly visit the theoretical discussions around the notion of populism. Two of the most influential scholars who studied the concept of populism are Ernesto Laclau and Margaret Canavan, and they have identified two key features of the populist reason: the direct appeal to the people and anti-elitism, the attack against an opponent. Canavan argues that populism in modern democracies is best seen as an appeal to the people against both the established structure of power and the dominant ideas and values of the society. They involve some kind of revolt against the established structure of power in the name of the people. But is populism a corrective or a threat for democracy? According to Mude and Kaltwasser, populism can have positive and negative effects on the quality of democracy. Based on these approaches, we will analyze the political discourse articulated by Thaksin Shinawatra before the elections of 2006. In recent years, Thailand has been struggling with intractable political conflict. The political crisis has inflicted severe collateral damage on the country, eroding the quality of governance and undermining the rule of law. The 2006 elections were boycotted by the rival parties that opposed Thaksin's participation in politics. They were aware that Thaksin was not a politician who can serve their interests, as well as their power base in politics. Even though the elections were boycotted, Thaksin still insisted on participating without the rest of the political parties. The main questions we purport to answer are the following. Is the discourse articulated by Thaksin Shinawatra a populist discourse? Does it fulfill the two criteria highlighted by Ernesto Laclau, a central reference to the people and an equivalential antagonistic discursive logic?
Thaksin's discourse indeed divided society into two opposing groups and identified the people of these groups. On the one side, he recognized the grassroots, the non-privileged people, while on the other side, he saw the elite, aristocracy, loyalists of the country. Let us first explore the status of the people in Thaksin's discourse. The people whom Thaksin was addressing were defined as the poor, the non-privileged, mainly agriculturists and farmers of Thailand. Thaksin maintained that he had got the feel of the non-privileged people because he had grown in a poor family. Through Through a simple and emotionally charged language, he tried to unite with his people, the poor people. In his discourse, the fact that at present he is one of the most successful entrepreneurs and politicians does not make him forget that in the past he had been among the very poor. As he pointed out, I understand the situation of poor people who build up a fortune by themselves. Why do I understand? Because I am a countryman and came to the city center for the sake of a better future. The call on the people in Thaksin's political discourse is closely linked with the demand for democracy. Thaksin stressed that democracy is the power of the people, by the people, and for the people. In this context, we can assert that the people does constitute a central reference in the political discourse of Thaksin. However, we should also investigate the logic that governs Thaksin discourse, as well as identify the enemies that it constructs. The enemy for Thaksin is the corrupt elite and institutions that resisted the way to democracy and elections, those who protested against the legal elected government. Specifically, the enemy for Thaksin is the Democrat Party, Liberal Party, the business elite, the corrupt institutions, Constitutional Court, State Audit Commission, Anti-Corruption Commission, and the military, the Privy Council, and loyalists. Particularly, the Democrat Party had always been accused by Thaksin that it was a party that tried to change the politics by illegal ways. His accusation included the independent institutions that were depicted as corrupt and unresponsive to the people's mandate. In Thaksin's view, the corrupt institutions, the military, the Privy Council, and the loyalists did not respect the decision of people. Why do not they want elections? Why do not they respect the people? We should not fear the judgment of the people. There is no doubt that the discourse of Thaksin is recognized, is organized according to an antagonistic schema. It distinguishes between us, the people, poor, non-privileged, and them, the elites, the corrupt institutions, and the conservative businessmen, the military, the Privy Council, aristocracy, and the loyalists, constructing thus two chains of equivalences at war with each other. The remaining question is the following: is Thaksin populism a threat or a corrective for democracy? Thaksin, by employing a populist discourse, he was not a populist politician from the beginning, managed to convince the majority of society, especially the poor and lower classes, to follow him faithfully. His populism facilitated the unification of the forces of the non-privileged people for pursuing their interests through the political processes. However, his populist rhetoric had an important effect on middle class, loyalists, bureaucracy, and military, specifically on the dispute of their political and economic interests. The fear over Thaksin's personalized authoritarian rule and populist appeal turned into anger and resentment, which led to the creation of movement PAD, or the Yellow Shirts, against Thaksin, but also against the electoral democracy. But was Thaksin an authoritarian politician? It is true that TRT party's government seems benefited from new constitutional provisions designed to strengthen the Prime Minister and create more stable governments. Moreover, Thaksin's government neutralized the new bodies set up by the Constitution to act as checks and balances on the enhanced power of the executive. Simultaneously, several government decisions seem to benefit Thaksin's family business. His own family will triple over his 4-year term, and also reasserted tight control over the media. Although Thaksin was accused of being an authoritarian politician, he is still supported by many poor people. The coup of 2006 and the subsequent attempts to eliminate Thaksin's influence by military operations and judicial decisions helped to provoke the first mass movement in Thai political history. The Red Shirt tried to counterattack the Yellow Shirt movement and to support Thaksin's power base in the country. But the most important fact is that Red Shirt movement is inoculated with democratic ideas. The Red Shirt movement provokes major political instability and crisis in the present, but it brought to the fore the question about the road of Thai democratization. Thank you so much.